Y'all, apparently this is only the beginning and the drama is just getting started. But I don't know how much more of this I can take, honestly.
Today's topic is something you're probably all familiar with unless you have not been on the internet in a week, because I feel like every single person that exists on Earth knows about this at this point.
Truly.
The Try Guys. You guys, I think we can all collectively agree we never thought the Try Guys were going to be trending for something negative.
I don't think they ever have.
Ned Fulmer is no longer working with the Try Guys. By now, we're assuming you've seen the Reddit threads and TikToks and tweets and news articles. We want to give you a timeline of what's transpired and some transparency into our decision making. Throughout this video, there will be things that we want to say or go into further, but as I'm sure you're aware, there are some legal issues we have to consider as we go through everything.
Hi everyone, it's me again, and Squish Gang is present for real this time. I'm not a scam Ethereum live stream, which we'll talk about that in a minute. So today we're going to talk about the whole scenario with the Try Guys and all of that whole debacle. But first I want to address some things. For those of you who are new to the channel or don't care or know what happened or everything, blah, 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 the video will be chaptered down below. If everything is weird and this doesn't turn out well as far as like the actual quality of the video goes, I had to completely do a brand new Windows reinstall. Like, I lost all of my files, all of my data, all of my settings, everything's gone, including the software for my microphone. And it's not working, and I don't have time to get it to work before recording this, so I'm just raw recording it to Audacity and praying to God. I got an email, like a bunch of suspicious emails the other day, and none of the files initialized or anything like that. And I have 2 forms of two-factor authentication, an encrypted drive, and security software and malware scan. That for some reason didn't matter. And this group from Russia, I guess, got into my Google account and kicked me out of it and disabled everything that I had. Like I said, I had 2 modes of two-factor authentication, and I had a recovery email, and all of that within a minute was gone. Some of you have been commenting on old videos, noticing that there are no other comments. Some people are accusing me of botting my views on my channel. That is not true. YouTube is just absolutely horrific at dealing with small creators or caring about anybody. So they have not restored my old comments. They have not restored any ability to do any sort of customization of my channel. So I can't have my popular uploads on my front page. I can't have anything. I don't even know if this will have comments on it or if it's going to work. If I delete it not long from now, it's just because things aren't working properly. I have no idea. I email them. They keep closing the email things, and then I DM them, and then they say, no, you have an email inquiry open. So whatever happens, happens. If you want to tweet at me or comment or DM me on Instagram or something, all my socials are linked down below, including the email for suggesting content that got my Google account taken from me. And some of you might say, well, it's really stupid to keep the email in. That email's not my YouTube account email. So, which is, like I said, the fact that all this happened in itself is very strange. My PC was mirrored to Russia, so I just scrapped the whole thing. I lost all my stuff. That's that on that. It started, I got hacked on Saturday, October 8th. Yeah, so I got hacked on Saturday, October 8th at 11 in the morning. Someone had commented on an Instagram photo of mine that I had been hacked. And then someone DM'd me that I asked if I had sold my channel. And then I immediately went to a frenzy trying to get the Google account back. I eventually did after about 6 hours. And relentless tweets from bigger creators that have supported me. Thank you so much. And then my channel, when I saw the scam stream going on, I got people to terminate the channel. So that's why all my features are messed up, because I had a recently terminated channel. They had privated all of my videos, and when you private a video and then you reinstate it, the comments are gone. But YouTube will not restore those comments. I'm very angry because this is something that I've worked for a long time. And I've been, like I said, I had multiple modes of two-factor authentication. I have an encrypted PC. I have all of these security features and stuff, and it didn't matter. So this is a word to the wise people who want to start a channel or something. I guess get physical keys, or at least authenticator keys. Yeah, so that's what happened. I am still monetized and everything, so I think everything's fine. The views are still somewhat consistent, I guess, but spread the word, I guess. You know, and if anybody you know unsubscribed or is upset with me that I had sold my soul to the crypto schemes. I did not do that. I was hacked without my knowledge, without my consent, and despite all of my attempts to have exactly this not happen. It's happened to bigger channels as well. It happened to the Vlogbrothers at one point, like a few years ago. It's happened before. It's just usually not channels with this low subscriber count, but I guess because my view counts are proportionally higher, maybe. So that's what happened. Just to let you guys know, with full transparency, I guess I opened an email that it screwed me. Other ways to support the channel, if you feel so inclined after the absolute disaster that has been last week. Links, sources, Amazon wishlist for a channel. So that's just stuff like the books that I get or whatever. A list of books that I do recommend. Patreon, everything down below. My socials and the email as well. So we're going to jump right into it now because I just had my long little rant. But there's going to be like 2-3 parts to this video. I think the third part might get amalgamated to the other two depending on how long I record. But part 1, I have the initial scandal and responses. So this is the stuff that most people have reported on. Like I would say about 3 weeks ago as everything came out in late September. Then I'm going to do part 2 as well with the Try Guys responding via videos and that godforsaken horrific SNL skit where I'm going to out-funny them. At least that's the plan. And then just kind of close with a little bit of audience reaction stuff and kind of the climate of the internet as a result of this whole thing. So if we get to part 1 with the initial scandals and the responses, right? So this video, like I said, we're going to focus mostly on part 2, which is the stuff post since the month of October started, I would say, because the beginning of the situation has been talked about ad nauseum already. But at the end of September, okay, so photos of Ned Fulmer were leaked, according to the Try Guys on Reddit, of him kissing his employee, who was an employee of the Try Guys company in, I want to say it was Vegas. I forgot to write down where it was because I forgot. They were kissing at a club, and then allegedly this had been a long-term affair. This came to a shock to many, given Ned Fulmer's I love my wife personality. Given that he was like a wife guy, he always talked about his wife, how much he liked his wife, how everything needed to be approved by his wife. And there's like compilations of him saying like my wife every 5 seconds. There's definitely like a persona that didn't align, right? But I've said this time and time and time again. If you have personas that are particularly of a certain extreme, whether that be someone like Sneeko, where it was advertly contrarian and aggressive and out of nowhere in that sense, or versus somebody like Ned Fulmer where it was like squeaky clean, perfect family man, nothing wrong, or even Boy in a Band, the male feminist persona, like pushing all these things, and it doesn't align, that shouldn't really shock you because most people don't have extreme personalities in one of those polls. And most of my content, for those of you, if there's anyone new here, is just critically engaging with these personalities, typically through this field of rhetoric that I specialize in my undergrad. So that's like something that should not be coming to a shock to people critically, is that these people that when you're pushing extremes, it's because you're trying to cover something else. That's why the term overcompensation exists. When you're sitting in this public marriage and this strain on these relationships, you've built up, everything that comes up must come down to some extent. And I'm not saying that all marriages are meant to fail, oh my God, but when you've gassed yourself up so much, something will typically deflate it, whether that would have been either something along these lines or just Ned being problematic in another light, because these extremes very rarely stay consistent. So let's use some rhetoric tools, some critical engagement tools. And I'm actually going to post on the screen my, so what I do with videos when I'm scripting them and stuff is I'll have a statement piece, particularly when people put like twitlongers or like notes app, apologies. And I write on them on my notes app and I kind of like underline stuff and I like, do all that whole thing. So let's just read it flat out first, and then we'll get to the Try Guys statement, and I did the same thing for that one. Family should have always been my priority, but I lost focus and had a consensual workplace relationship. I'm sorry for any pain that my actions may have caused to the guys and fans, but most of all to Ariel. The only thing that matters right now is my marriage and my children, and that's where I'm going to focus my attention. So my notes, as you can see on the screen, are he holds on to the previous persona in this last-ditch effort, okay? Given that he immediately begins with family. There is no, I apologize for my actions. I apologize to, not even I'm sorry to my family and Ariel, for example. Or I'm like, the apology is not at the forefront. Instead, it is his loss of focus. Or, on the contrary note, his loss of retaining that persona. Because it's bizarre to have the statement just begin with family should have always been my priority. Because contextually, this isn't giving context if you're not aware necessarily of everything that's been going on. It is quite a strange and confusing process. A consensual workplace relationship, which we'll get into the absolutely god-awful Saturday Night Live skit. Who's thought Saturday Night Live is funny in the last 20 years? Nobody. I said obviously no acknowledgement of the dynamic of workplace employee and the boss or whatever. For those of you who don't know, which is an interesting tidbit that kind of proves that these dynamics are something that are acknowledged on a wider scale and a legal scale. In Canada, the age of consent is 16. If the other person is in a position of power, a boss, a police officer, a teacher, a government official or whatever, it goes to 18. So there's an understanding that there is a disadvantage, so the age goes higher, right? So that's just an example of like a legal structure that is acknowledging that in place. Because the Saturday Night Live skit, which we'll get to later, just completely disregards the idea of that power dynamic as something that is seriously acknowledged and not just like a Gen Z cry about it vibe. There's not like actual laws about it. He does not name his colleagues, nor does he apologize to his kids. That is just something that I found to be quite strange. You don't have to say, like, he doesn't have to dox his kids, obviously. But why is he not saying, I apologize to Eugene and Keith and Zach and all the employees at Try Guys, blah, 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 blah. Like, it's just very haphazard despite the severity. And also, which this comes out in the podcast, the Try Guys company found out in, like, I think Zach said the 5th of September. This statement was released obviously later than the 5th of September, so Bestie had time to think about it a little bit. So it didn't have to be this short thing to just get out so that people could understand that he's acknowledged it. Like, there could have been some slight crafting at hand here, which you can tell by the Try Guys statement that there's a little bit more. And Zach said on the podcast that it seems that Ned's lawyer copied the font, which I thought was a very interesting thing. So to make it kind of look, allegedly to them, to make it look like they released the statements together, which was apparently 100% not the case. I noticed that they took the approach of like, if you do not say much, there is little to no room for error. The thing is that the seriousness of the situation has been minimalized in this context. When you are just trying to cover your ass for, you know, that saying this, like, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? The thing is that taking shots also risks epically missing, taking shots in itself risks missing. So that's kind of the approach that they've taken, right? Is like, the more room we give for words, the more room people have to pick it apart. But despite the fact that 3 lines, I was still able to talk about it for like 3 minutes. Try Guys released a statement as well. Obviously, they were somewhat prepared because of the time frame that they had to be able to wait for the public response. Because like they said, given that they knew that it had been on Reddit and there was like a couple things here and there, they knew that they were just waiting for the bomb to explode. And it ended up being taking about 2-3 weeks or so. So the Try Guys statement reads as follows. Again, I have my notes up here for you as well. Ned Fulmer is no longer working with the Try Guys. As a result of a thorough internal review, we do not see a path forward together. We thank you for the support as we navigate this change. So I said straight to the point, matter of fact, like, it's a matter of company, so it is very impersonal. It's good because of impulsivity, right? They gave themselves time to see the internet's reaction, to see public reaction, to see Ned and the statements and everything before they put in any personal anecdotes and more casual reactions. Also, to obviously avoid defamation just in the structure, but that's because in America, it seems you can sue people easily. Because lawsuits like of that nature in Canada are very, very, very hard to go through. And I think it's because of the Free Speech Act. People who study law in America, educate me a little bit if you don't mind. Just because I'm just like a little bit confused. Because I know for a fact suing in general is easier in the United States for a lot of like personal causes. But I just don't know like how this aligns, because they talked about the defamation as a thing that Ned could come for a lot in the Try Guys podcast. And I just said, yeah, obviously, crafted by a lawyer, that's the right way to go. I don't know why people like James Charles be admitting to texting minors on his own videos. Like, you got to run that through somebody, girl, please. Like, the negligence of people running through lawyers is horrific at times at PR disasters like this. And then, you know, all the commentary videos and the TikToks and yada, yada, yada. You saw some of them in the intro sequence, for example. But that's the situation at hand. And that is the part that people have talked about more. But we'll get more into the other aspect of this with my own little fun, cool, diddly-dee-doo-doo-doo analysis. So part 2, I call it the Try Guys respond via videos and SNL still sucks. So given these extreme circumstances, the Try Guys had to release a video, right? And they did not think originally that they would expand beyond the fan base. Everything I'm saying, by the way, with like certainty, I found in either a TikTok, an article, their own comments, their own tweets, their own videos. They did not think that this whole scenario would expand beyond the fan base or expand beyond like people who might have watched BuzzFeed a few years ago, yada, yada, yada. Because like, I didn't have internet till 2017. I've never seen a Try Guys video in my life. I have a tweet from when this was happening that I said I had no idea who they were. This obviously has been able to reach far beyond. I've had requests to do Try Guys videos, and yeah, so it's like you can see the span. It's like the dream face reveal, right? It's like it was able to transcend any of their fan bases. So they also like have called themselves non-dramatic boys or non-toxic boys. So to be looped into like an internet tea scandal was definitely the last thing that they wanted or expected. So they filmed the video, you know, called What Happened, which was Keith, Zach, and Eugene on the couch, sitting and looking at the camera, you know, which Zach mentions in the podcast is was obviously very tightly crafted, again, by a lawyer.
As I'm sure you're aware, there are some legal issues we have to consider as we go through everything.
On Labor Day weekend, multiple fans alerted us that they had seen Ned and an employee engaging in public romantic behavior. We reached out to check on that employee. Ned confirmed the reports and since confirmed that this had been going on for some time, which was obviously very shocking to us, and we just want you to know that we had no idea this was going on. All of that information was just as shocking to us as all of this has been for you this week.
And thus began a 3-week process of engaging with employment lawyers, corporate lawyers, HR, PR, and more, in order to make sure we were taking all necessary steps. From the jump, we were acutely aware of just how contrary this was to the values of the company we've built and those of everyone who works here. This is something we took very seriously. We refused to sweep things under the rug. That is not who we are, and it's not what we stand for.
When you have a channel with 8 million subscribers, a podcast channel with 500,000 subscribers, a company, and a previous backing from a company like BuzzFeed, you can't just throw things around with negligence. It doesn't matter if YouTube tends to be a personal entity. When you are a mega channel like this and you've been around for a long time and you have infamy and you have a reputation and you have like an ethos in rhetoric terms, you can't just be negligent and throw things around like that. So having things going through a lawyer is one, wise and something more people should do and completely understandable in my humble opinion. Video blew up because of the situation, but expanded it further because of Eugene's body language, which there's infamous screenshots of because he's obviously very angry, which again is fair. Like the fact that people are not acknowledging the fact that Ned pushed this persona to other people. It doesn't matter if it's, it's just cheating. It shouldn't be like something to fire him over or whatever. When your whole persona, which personas on YouTube are also what generate revenue, was entirely a lie. First off, what else are you hiding? 2, you couldn't even respect the people that you worked and knew for so long to be truthful. And 3, this could cause further damages down the line and a distrust with the audience. And when the audience interaction is the revenue, unlike a lot of other fields of work directly, you cannot afford to have that. It's against everything they value. Again, this is company centric, and given the parameters of the affair, the violation of workplace conduct, you have to be careful. Because the slippery slope of defamation, you have to be as careful as possible. Again, this is stated in the podcast. If people feel like the whole thing was so horribly impersonal, watch the podcast episode. Then you get a lot of context and you get all those details that you're kind of looking for. If not, I cover it a little bit more down the line. You could just like stay here or whatever. There's not too much I can add in regards to commentary on the beginning part of this whole thing that, again, has not been said all over TikTok, all over YouTube, all over Twitter. That tends to be why I kind of avoid necessarily like covering super, super, super popular stuff like this because I don't really know what else I could say. Obviously, I can bring in a little bit of aspects of rhetoric in this case, but at the same time, there's not a lot of rhetoric in this when people have been so it's so tightened by lawyers, right? It's other rhetoricians have kept it as clean as possible. So there's not too much to pick apart because rhetoric tends to be quite a personal thing. But when you've zapped an interaction of its personal nature, which a lot of these have been because of that fear of defamation and lawsuits and stuff like that, there's not too much to comment on for that. However, there's the tripod episode released on October 6th, which was called Okay, Let's Talk About It, the Tripod Episode 181, which featured Keith, Zach, and their producer, Miles. I'm not familiar with these people, if that wasn't already clear enough. So if there's something about Miles that we gotta know, let the girlies know in the comments if my comments are on. If you skipped the beginning part, I got hacked recently. Everything's messed up. So they outlined the timeline from their end, saying they found out around the 5th or 6th of September, and given the way they found out, they always knew that things were going to be leaked.
He would have taken the same action, but the fact that it was something that was caught by fans, that was, a transgression that was enacted publicly, added a level of complication to this, where we knew there was this stick of dynamite with an uncertain fuse. We knew that at any moment this could and would come out. So again, no matter what, we would have taken the same action. Maybe we would have done it more privately, I'm not sure. But, in addition to having all the stressors of how do we do this right, it was the stressors of when is this going to break? It's coming. It's coming any moment.
And that it was going to explode online to some extent, but depending on the extent would be how privately they were going to be able to handle the situation. As soon as they found out about the affair, they began the termination process of Ned, emailing lawyers and PR people in HR to figure out under what parameters could the termination take place, if it could take place at all, what Ned's rights were, etc. They knew that they had to terminate Ned because of the involvement of an employee and the disregard of Ned to be involved with an employee in the first place, the fact that Ariel was a public figure and not necessarily like an employee of the show, but worked on one of the shows they're affiliated with, as well as the concern of lawsuits. Zach said in the podcast that the first thing he would do in the mornings, he would wake up and essentially all day he'd be emailing lawyers in preparation and post everything coming out.
And it was a week of relentless work. I mean, it's been a month of relentless work, but especially that first week, we knew before the world knew. And this is something we took very seriously. We knew that it required a swift action, legal action, figuring out what we as co-owners could do, what was within our realm. So that was a lot of lawyer calls and then finding an HR representative. Like, what even is a review internally? What does that even look like?
So Miles brings up a personal anecdote about how it was for the employees and the feelings that they had and the actions that occurred for that, and kind of just personal anecdotes about it and how the environment had become very odd after things started coming out, right? Or at least in my opinion, they didn't know as early as a lot of people thought, and that there are personal ties here, which is why the SNL skit being so stupid and dismissive was also just a piss off. And I think it's definitely not ideal. And I just think that's an aspect of this whole ordeal, is that you cannot assume that just because they're employees or there's workers involved or that it's necessarily as loose ties as a lot of other workplaces are. Because again, it's always going to be shocking if you thought you knew somebody and they weren't at all like they presented. So now to get into to end on a lighter note, the absolutely horrifically dog shit, stupid, unfunny, chronically unfunny, boomer core SNL skit. I'm just gonna say that I am mad at y'all for suggesting I watch this. Yep, I had people tweet me and stuff like that. They're like, oh, we're gonna cover the Try Guys. Can you please talk about the SNL skit? I'm mad at you, personally, because it killed brain cells and made my feelings. It hurt my feelings because of how bad it was. And all I'm gonna say is I'm about to be funnier in the next 5 minutes than SNL's been in 20 years. And I'm not funny. Neither are they, though, which we know. So primarily, you need to convince me that Bill Maher didn't write this. If you don't know who Bill Maher is, it's not as funny. If you do, you know what I mean. Boomers have 3 jokes. And when I say boomers, do not comment things like, my mom was born in 1961 and she is really nice. And people always dog on boomers. Boomers is a mindset. While it's technically also an age, it's definitely a mindset. You know a boomer, all right? And when I say boomers, boomers got 3 jokes that all come out in this SNL skit. Boomers good, Gen Z bad. Millennials also. Boomers good, millennials, Gen Z bad. Cancel culture is quite literally the worst thing to have ever occurred in history. And even things like worldwide disasters aren't comparable. And that sounds dramatic that I'm saying that. You'll see. They literally do that in the skit. Tertiarily. 3. Centrism or neoliberalism good. Capitalism bad. People lazy. They're just lazy. No one wants to do a real job. No one wants to work these days. Right? So those are your 3 points that are ever made by boomers that write anything. And Bill Maher's show is really bad for that. That's why I said couldn't tell me he didn't write. They make a joke that workplace misconduct is completely fine.
On the line,
he committed the heinous act of having a consensual kiss and not telling us, his friends.
Okay, wow. So the full story is that your friend had a side chick and you fired.
Which does not surprise me from the show that made Chevy Chase's career. Obviously, y'all didn't care about workplace misconduct when one of your biggest stars to ever come out of the show tried to punch Bill Murray in the face backstage. Tell me that you have a absolutely piss poor workplace environment when your biggest joke is someone who's having sex with employees when they're married and their wife is affiliated with your company isn't actually that doesn't create a dynamic of fear and anxiety in the workplace, because who's next to be involved and are they under what level of complacentness are they going to be accused of? Because the employees have been contacted by people asking questions, trying to figure out what's been going on. People have been lying that they've been working at the office, or people have been misconstruing different things as a result of this. This falls into what I like to call the boomer fallacy, which is that young people, as soon as they think someone online should face consequences, needs to die.
He had no choice, and we hope he is somewhere on his back with a in his brain and belly.
Because they make a joke that's like, the young people think that they have huge. I can't even remember. I've Sigmund Freud or whatever said that you repress trauma. Yeah, they make a joke about that too. That Gen Z just thinks everything, or young people, millennials, because they're millennials. I think the Try Guys are millennials. That everything is trauma. I'm kind of using it as a joke in this case, just because Saturday Night Live is horrifically terrible. They can do what I call the boomer fallacy, which is young people, when people bat online, young people think they should die. Not the fact that hella boomer truckers stormed the Canadian Capitol and ruined the capital of the country for a month straight because they had to get a vaccine to cross a border. Can you give me a fucking break? You guys are also mad about people on Twitter being can you stop saying slurs, please? Give me a break. For real. Be fucking for real. Saturday Night Live also believes that people cannot think of 2 things at once if they're young, I guess. This is what I mean when they kept trying to pull back. It's a scene in it. I don't know if I don't want to put any of it in. I'm kind of scared. I might put screenshots or tiny clips. I think they're going to claim me. They say that Gen Z can't think of 2 things at once by making the current conflict in Iran the butt of the joke.
A new cultural revolution.
Cut back to us.
No!
And that millennials and Gen Zs are the only people to ever overreact about anything. They're the ones always overreacting. Have you seen old people talk about self-checkouts? I know they're not ideal. I get that. For some people, at least, whatever. But if you want to see someone overreacting, go on Facebook and look at them talk about, look up the word self-checkout and read those for me. And then come back and tell me old people don't overreact about stuff. And then they make a joke about branded videos and they have to include Ned in them. A huge NBC production doesn't understand contractual obligation. Okay. Sure. Big funny. Big slay. Good, funny. Hilarious. That's all for that part as well. And if we're going to touch on the internet climate, all I'm going to say about this is, I said, there's very little rhetoric unpacking for this. And I think it was just right now, I would say we're in the arc of the fall of the nice guy from smaller scenarios like Dream's face reveal being underwhelming for people, and Dream being considered a pretty low drama character archetype or whatever, to Adam Levine trying to name his baby after an affair that he had, to Ned Fulmer cheating on his wife, to really serious stuff like Rex Orange County's assault allegations. So there's definitely like a lot of, but it's all of these people that were praised for their kindness that had these hyper positive personalities that are kind of at the end. Obviously, and again, I had Dream, Adam Levine, Rex Orange County, and Ned in the same kind of thing to show that it's a spectrum. Please, they're not all the same. There's a huge spectrum. Like Dream is over here, and then like Rex Orange County's over here, and it's like Dream, Ned, Adam Levine. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to make that very clear. But yeah, so this has just been a lot of conversations about like what's considered to be trauma, what's considered to be workplace misconduct. I think a lot of that's just going to be speculation. And like I said, they mentioned themselves too in the podcast that they have to kind of hide a lot of things given the nature of Ned and defamation and lawsuits and that kind of stuff. So I think it's just too messy to be speculating on that and people should just stop. That's my humble take on that one. And yeah, so I think that's it on that. And I'm going to conclude. I don't really feel like talking about this anymore. I'm also super late to the party because like I said, I got hacked by Russians and I have horrible anxiety about even trying to upload to this YouTube channel, and I'm just or run my video editor on my computer or use my computer or use my Google account or go on the internet. So yeah, that's it for this one. If my morale's a little bit stinky, I'm trying, guys. Like, I'm trying, y'all. Please. Anyways, links, social sources, Amazon, Patreon, book list, ways to support the channel, all that stuff down below. Hopefully there are comments. And yeah, funny TikTok time. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great day, and I'll see you when I see you. Bye.
Look, lady, whatever you're selling, I ain't buying, yo.
Well, my name is Skylar White, yo. My husband is Walter White, yo. Uh-huh. He told me everything.
Seriously?
That's right. And just so you know, my brother-in-law is a DEA agent, and I will not hesitate to call him. Not if I have to. Understood?